Today, inshallah, we will discuss the chapter 10, which is related to the nature of planning and control. Okay, we're still discussing, or we're still talking about the operations, the book of operations management. So we already discussed chapter 1 and chapter 3, I think, that were related to the definition of operations management, and we already discussed some idea about the supply networks. Okay, and today, inshallah, we will continue our discussion about the nature of planning and control. In the operations management, planning and control are very important. They are two different concepts. Of course, planning means to think of the future. What should you do in the future? This is the planning. If you want to plan something, then you are thinking of the future, and what would you do in the future? Okay, or what will you do in the future regarding any task that you are processing right now. This is the planning, and the control is not related to the future. It's related to the present. Okay, so it's the opposite, or it's something that's different than the planning. The control, if you begin your plan, then you need to control this plan. You need to control the execution of your plan. When you perform the control, you need to see if you are working as per the plan, or you do different things. If you do different things, then you need to go back again to your plan. Okay, this is the control. So the control is the way of ensuring that you are following your plan. So here are the planning and control, and it's part of the capacity. It's part of the operations concepts of operations management. In the operations management, we have the design first, or the operations strategy that we define at the beginning of our operations, and then after that we design the operations processes and operations tasks, and then we, as a part of the design, we make the planning and control. We have two requirements, okay, or we have two entities in the capacity planning and control. We have the market requirements, okay, that are in a shape, or in a picture of products and services delivered to requested time, quantity, and quality. And we have also the operation supplies. That means the raw materials that we need to perform the operations. Okay, and then these are the objectives, or these are the key operations questions that we want to answer in this chapter, in chapter 10. We want to answer the question of what's planning and control. That means we will define the planning and control. And question number 2, how do supply demand affect planning and control? We will discuss also the idea of the supply and demand. Okay, whether the supply is greater than the demand or the demand is greater than the supply, and in what way they are affecting planning and control. And finally, we will see the activities that are related to planning and control. Okay, here a definition of a planning. Okay, it says that the planning is a formalization of what's intended to happen at some time in the future. That means it's a plan, it's your plan. Okay, or if you are in the business, then we can call it the business plan. Okay, or in your life, in your everyday life, you are doing planning for every day that you face. For example, in the morning, when you wake up in the morning, you make your plan. Sometimes you write what you should do at that day, and sometimes you don't write, you just remember the things that you want to do at that day. Okay, this is the plan. This is your plan. The problem with the planning is that if you make the plan, you will not be sure 100% that this plan will be executed exactly. Okay, so sometimes you plan to do something, but because of importance of another thing, then you shift your plan to another thing. But even though this is a weakness in your planning, because in the planning you need to define or decide which task is more important than the other task in order for you to do it. Okay, you should plan to do the most important tasks, and then after that you do the least important tasks. What's the thing that make you sure 100% that your plan will be executed as planned? Okay, so when you make a plan, this is not enough for the success or for achieving your goals. You need to make the plan, and also in the same time you need to perform the control over this plan. You make it, or you perform the control by checking each task that you did, okay, at the beginning of your execution, and then try to see if you are following your plan or you have some deviation or some change in your plan. Okay, so the control is the process of coping with any changes affecting the plan. It may also mean that an interactivity need to be made in the operation to bring it back again on track. Okay, so this is the benefit of the control in planning. Okay, it's very important. The control is very important in planning. Okay, it's like the planning itself. So the planning or the concept of planning is deciding what activities should you take or should take place in the operation. What activities should take place in the operation? Okay, this is one decision, or the first decision in the planning, and also when they should take place, when these activities should take place. That means you need to define the activities, and you need to define also the time of each activity, and also what resources should be allocated to them. If you need some resources in doing or in finishing these activities, you need also to write it down or put it in your plan. Whereas the control is to understanding what's actually happening in the operation. That means that will happen automatically when you make the plan. When you are the one who made your plan, of course you will understand what's actually happening in the operation, okay, and deciding whether there is any significant change, okay, there is any significant deviation or change, okay, deviation or change, okay. If there is any deviation, if there is any change in your execution, you need to return it back because you have the plan. You need to follow your plan. What's the significance of planning and control? We can see here in this graph is that in the long term, you see this is the time horizon. Okay, this is the time horizon. This is the hours or days, and here we have the days, weeks, and months, and here we have months and years. That means this is the long term. Here, this is the long term, and here the mid term, and here this is the short term. Okay, we can see that in the long term, the planning is more important than the control. Here, this line explains the importance of the process. Okay, importance of the process. And now we are comparing between the planning and control based on the time horizon. Okay, in the long term, planning is more important than the control. And the more we go to short term, the more the planning will be less important than the control until we reach the short term here. In the short term, in the hours and days, okay, we can see that here the control is more important than the planning. Okay, so here in the long term, planning and control. First of all, in the long term planning and control, first of all, we use if we are making the plan, or if we are making the planning, okay, we use aggregated demand factors or forecasts. That means we don't know exactly what will be the demand exactly. Okay, which customer will demand which products. So we use what we call the aggregated demand. Aggregated demand means the demand that does not have special details, with no details. It's just a combination or a collection of demands, group of demands. Okay, this is one thing in the long-term planning and control. The other thing is that the resources also will be aggregated, the same as the demand. So the demand will be aggregated, and also the resources will be aggregated also. We don't know exactly what resources we should need in the long term. Okay, and normally in long term, the objectives, okay, the objectives is most of the time is financial terms. That means in the long term, we just want to achieve, for example, to achieve an increase in our profit by, for example, 5 or 10%. okay, or we need to increase our sales by 15% more than last year. This is the objectives of the long term. Okay, so in the midterm planning and control, we use partially disaggregated demand. That means we don't know exactly the demand details, but we sometimes try to forecast how much this customer will need during, for example, 2 or 3 months. Okay, this is what we call it disaggregated demand or partially disaggregated demand. Okay, and also the resource, the same thing will be uh, will be uh, will be disaggregated or partially disaggregated. And finally, the objectives will be both in financial and operational terms. Like for example, we need in the midterm planning and control, we can say as an objective for the midterm planning and control, we can say that we need to achieve 5% increase in the profit, and we need our operations 70% or 75%. That means 75% of our machines is working. Okay, so it's both financially and operationally terms. Okay, finally, in the short-term planning and control, we use totally disaggregated forecast. That means in the short term, in the hours and days, okay, we have to define exactly which customer will demand how many pieces from each product. Okay, because we should know exactly in the short term we should know exactly the demand for each customers by name, by by name of the customer. Okay, so the short-term planning and control uses totally disaggregated forecasts for actual demand, and also makes intervention to resources to correct deviation from plans. That means if you find any deviation, if you find any change in your plan, directly you need to intervene, or you need to stop the operations, or you need to change the operations in order to follow your plan. Okay, so this is the difference between planning and control based on the time horizon. Okay, now we have another subject, okay, which is the dependent and independent demands. Okay, simply the dependent demand is the demand that you can forecast. Okay, the demand that you can predict. For example, if you have a factory for car tires. Based on the book, we have an example of the car tires manufacturer. Okay, so the car tires manufacturer knows exactly how much tires he wants. Okay, if he knows how many cars will be manufactured by the car manufacturer. If the car manufacturer, like Toyota, for example, okay, Toyota wants to produce 500 cars today, okay, and let us say Goodyear company of the tires, of the car tires. Toyota told the tires manufacturer, which is Goodyear, they told him that we want to manufacture 500 cars today. Directly, the tires manufacturer knows exactly how many tires they need. Okay, so the car manufacturer needs 2,500 tires. So directly the tires manufacturer will produce 2,500 tires and then give it to Toyota in order to produce or manufacture 500 cars. So this is the dependent demand. The dependent demand is the demand that we know it, we can forecast it, or we can predict it. Okay. In the other hand, independent demand is the demand that you cannot predict. Like, for example, if you have a tires repairing shop. If you have tire repairing shop, you don't know exactly how many new tires you need, because simply you don't know exactly how many cars will come to you every day. So the demand of the tires is independent, is not, we cannot predict it or we cannot forecast it in this situation, in this case. Okay, so this is the difference between dependent and independent demand. And in the business we can find hundreds of examples about dependent and independent demands. Okay, like for example, if you are like Dell manufacturer of computers, okay, Dell computers. If they want to produce or manufacture 5,000 desktop, for example, or laptops, okay, during this month. Okay, during this month, Dell manufacturer want to produce 5,000 laptops. Okay, in the same time, when they send a memo, for example, or an email, for example, to the memory manufacturer, okay, directly they know exactly how many motherboards or how many memory Dell needs. So they manufacture or they produce the required number of motherboard and then send it to Dell manufacturer. Okay, yeah, that's right. Like the ice cream, Khadija. Exactly like the ice cream. When the weather is changing, okay, so we don't know exactly the amount or the quantity of ice cream that we should sell. But of course, in the summertime, we know that the demand will be high, and in the weather changing, like those days, for example, or in the winter, we don't know exactly how many ice cream or what is the quantity of ice cream we need to produce. Excellent. Okay, so I think it's clear. Is it clear the difference between dependent and independent demand? So here, this is the example of the tires manufacturer. Each 5 tires, okay, will produce 1 car. So they know exactly how many tires they need. And this is the independent demand, tire fitting services. Okay, the tire fitting services, which is the car tires workshop or maintenance, car maintenance. Okay, we don't know exactly how many tires we need, because the demand is independent. We don't know exactly how many tires we need. The make to stock or produce to stock, and make to order or produce to order, and resource to order. Resource to order. These are 3 concepts that are related to the operations and control, and the difference between them is that in the make to stock, you know exactly your demand. Okay, the demand is dependent here. If the demand is dependent, then you choose or you follow the make to stock. That means you can stock your products because you know exactly how many products you need to stock in this way. Okay, but if the demand is what we call it is independent, or just it's not 100% dependent. Okay, we use make to order or resource to order. We use those two strategies or those two approaches. We have two philosophies or two concepts in the operations, which is the pull and push philosophies of planning and control. Pull and push philosophies of planning and control related to the forecast of the operations. So here, for example, let us take the push control here. Okay, the push control, as it says that if you have a manufacturing place, or if you have a factory for manufacturing anything, let us say for manufacturing cars, for example. In this factory, there are a lot of what we call it work centers. Like for example here, this work center is responsible for the machines, the engine of the car. And this work center is responsible for manufacturing the body of the car. Okay, and this one is for the glasses. Okay, and this one is for assembling all the pieces. In push control, all of the work centers push the final products and services to the next work center. So when the engine work center finish from producing one engine, directly they will send it to the other work center, and when they finish, they also will send it to here and here. Okay, so each one of them sends the final products and services to the next work center. In this way, the second work center will have a lot of stocks here, a lot of engines waiting for finishing his work. He will not take any engine unless he finish his work here. Okay, so there will be a lot of stocks here, and the more this work center will give to the other work center, the more the stock will be here, collected here or accumulated here. Okay, in the final stage there will be a blocking. That means this work center will stop working because this one cannot work because there will be a lot of stocks here. And the same thing happened from this work center to this work center. Okay, so this is what we call it the push control. The push control means when I finish my work, I will push it directly to the next one. Whereas in the pull control is the opposite. The pull control begins with the demand. When the sales department asks for one car to be manufactured, then there will be a request to the first or the last work center for doing so, and then the last work center will give a request to the previous one, and this one will give, and there will be a delivery, and so on. In this way, there will be no stocking here, there will be no blockage in the operations. Of course, the production will be less than when we use push control, but we will have a clean area. We will have what we call it lean production. Lean production. Lean production means a clean and optimal production. Okay, each one requests from the previous, and the previous will give him, will deliver to him. Okay, so in this way is better than the other way, which is the push control. As we can see here in the push system, okay, when this guy finishes his work, he will push the final product to this area in order for this guy to take his production and put it with his production also, and they combine it with his production and then send another thing to the next worker. So here we have a lot of stock here. Okay, whereas in the pull strategy or pull approach, each one will request from the previous, and the previous will give him based on his demand or based on his request. Okay, here we can see that a push system where material is moved on to the next stage as soon as it has been processed. Okay, and here a pull system where materials is moved only when the next stage was hit.